Welcome, councillors, to the meeting of the Vale of Glamorgan Council on Monday, the 15th of July. Item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies? Leader?
Howard Hamilton, please, Mayor.
Councillor Carroll?
Councillor Stephen Haynes.
Thank you. Do we have any more apologies? No. Okay. Item 2 on the agenda, to hear the roll call of members. Victoria.
Thank you, Chair. I'm now going to undertake the roll call of members and also to receive any declarations of interest and the nature of such interest under the Council's Code of Conduct. Councillor Anne Asprey.
Presennol, a dim byd ddatgan.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Julie Aviett.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Gareth Ball.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Rhiannon Birch.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Bronwyn Brooks.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Gillian Bruce. Councillor Bruce. I'll come back to you. Councillor Ian Buckley.
Present, none to declare.
Councillor Liz Burnett.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Samantha Campbell.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor George Carroll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Christine Cave.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Charles Champion.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Janice Charles.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Millie Collins.
Present, nothing to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Marianne Cowp.
Present, and I would like to declare an interest in item 6, the motion about specialist breastfeeding support. I'm a trustee at Diddins Powys Library, which is a voluntary-led library and is where that group is held. But just for councillors to know that I do have dispensation to speak and vote on general library matters. It's just held in the building. It's not in any other way connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowp. Councillor Pam Drake.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Vincent Driscoll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Anthony Ernest.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Robert Fisher.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Christopher Franks.
Present, I would like to declare that I've consulted Democratic Services regarding the breastfeeding motion. Classes are held in Diddins Powys Library and I am a trustee of the library. However, no charges are levied on the classes, so there's no financial interest. I do have dispensation to speak on library matters, but I'm advised that I also can vote in this respect as there's no financial interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Councillor Wendy Gilligan.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Russell Godfrey. Councillor Godfrey. I'll come back. Councillor. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Councillor Emma Goodjohn.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Ewan Goodjohn.
Presennol, a dim.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Stephen Haynes. Apologies. Oh, of course, yeah. And Howard Hamilton, yeah. Councillor Sally Hanks.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor William Hennessy.
Present with nothing to declare.
Councillor Nick Hodges.
Present, nothing to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Hooper.
Presennol, I didn't do that.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Catherine Iannucci Williams.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Gwyn John.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Ian Johnson.
Present.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Susan Lloyd Selby.
Am I working? Yeah. Present, and I'd like to declare a personal and prejudicial interest in relation to agenda item 6, the motion before council regarding support for breastfeeding. I've been appointed as an independent member to Cardiff and Vale Health Board, and so I will leave the meeting when that agenda item is taken.
Thank you. Councillor Belinda Lovelock Edwards.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Julie Lynch Wilson.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Kevin Marney.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Naomi Marshalsea.
Present, I'll add them, do that.
Present and nothing to declare.
Morgan.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Jane Norman.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Helen Payne.
Presennol.
Councillor Elliot Penn.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Sandra Perks.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ian Perry. Councillor Perry. I'll come back. Councillor Joanna Prothero.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ruba Sivignanem.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Caris Stallard.
And presennol, I didn't be.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Neil Thomas.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Rhys Thomas.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Stefan William.
Presennol.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Margaret Wilkinson.
Working, but present. It's working now. Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Eddie Williams.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Mark Wilson.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Nicholas Wood. Councillor Wood.
Present and nothing to declare.
So can I just,
Present and nothing to declare.
thank you. Can I just go back to Councillor Nick Hodges?
No, Nick Hodges is present.
Oh, he's
Gillian
present.
Bruce.
Gillian Bruce, sorry.
Yeah.
Present, nothing to declare.
Ah, brilliant. Thank you. That concludes the roll.
And Ian Perry.
Oh, yes, yeah. Councillor Perry.
He's not joined us.
He's not joined.
He's not joined.
Okay. Councillor Perry hasn't joined the meeting. Thank you. That concludes the roll call, Mayor.
Thank you. Just a little oversight, a little bit of housekeeping. Should have done that before roll call. Apologies, members. This meeting will be recorded and uploaded to the council's website as soon as possible after the meeting. Can I also ask all members that mics and cameras are switched off until you are invited to speak? For remote attendees, should you wish to speak, would you please indicate by using the raise hand function? For members present in the chamber who wish to speak, please raise your hand physically, and when invited by myself to speak, press your microphone button once. Please also ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. Regarding voting on recommendations, if there is no dissent to a recommendation, I will accept the silence as agreement. If an electronic vote is called for during the meeting, then I advise on how to participate will be provided. Thank you. Moving on, agenda item 3, minutes for approval for accuracy purposes. Is the council happy to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of April 2024? Leader?
Happy to move the minutes, Mayor.
And happy to second those minutes.
Thank you. Okay, those are approved. Is the council happy to approve the minutes of the annual meeting held on the 8th of May 2024? Leader?
Move the minutes, Mayor.
And I'll second those, Mayor.
Thank you. And those minutes are approved. Agenda item 4, announcements. I have a few announcements. Can I start by congratulating Kanishka Narayan on his election success as our new Member of Parliament for the Vale of Glamorgan? Can I also wish Alan Cairns our best wishes and hope for success in whatever plans he has for the future? I've attended many varied events since May, 12 in total. I won't go through all of them, but here are a few highlights. I was incredibly honoured to award the RNLI Freeman and Freewoman status of the Vale of Glamorgan at a packed Festival of the Sea event at Barry Island. An amazing organisation whose tireless volunteers keep us safe on a daily basis. We commemorated the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings, and I enjoyed many conversations with veterans long after the service had finished. My French was truly tested at the twinning event I hosted with delegates from Fécamp in Normandy, who sang at the Festival of the Sea event. I must thank them for their excellent singing and apologise for my bad French. I raised the Pride flag in Cowbridge and attended Cowbridge Pride Parade with my family. Events like this show how welcoming and diverse the Vale of Glamorgan really can be. I attended 2 award ceremonies. Firstly, the Refugee Council of Wales Nation of Sanctuary Awards. I also attended the Bro Radio Community Awards, giving the amazing volunteers, community groups and sports groups, businesses and teachers of the Vale of Glamorgan the recognition they deserve. A well done to Cal and his dad, Paul, and other volunteers of the St. Athens Clothes Bank. Keep up the good work. And lastly, can I also thank Deputy Mayor Naomi Marshalsea for stepping in at events after COVID finally caught up with me. Do we have any other announcements, Leader? Cabinet members? No. Ian. Councillor Johnson, sorry.
Sorry, Mayor. It's not my place here, but I think you mentioned one of the MPs for the Vale of Glamorgan, but not both of them. We also want to congratulate, is it Stephen Doughty on his election as well for Cardiff South and Penarth?
Yeah, I'm sorry, he was Cardiff South and Penarth and we are the Vale of Glamorgan Council, but congratulations to Stephen Doughty on your re-election as the MP for Cardiff South and Penarth. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Agenda item 5, questions from the public. As members have been So questions 2 and 4 on the agenda have been withdrawn. Can we move to question 1 from Mr. Al Jones to the Leader as Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources? Leader.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting for it to click in. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Jones. I think it's fair to say, while some forms of telecommunications developments require planning permission, Others are permitted development, and yet others are only subject to a prior notification procedure. When considering planning proposals, the council must have regard to Planning Policy Wales, which states, and I quote, provided that the development meets the International Commission on Non-Ionising Radiation Protection, which is ICN-IRP, which I will use that in future, guidelines, planning authority should not consider the health aspects of mobile telecommunication equipment. All new base stations are expected to meet the ICN-IRP guidelines. And again, quote, planning authority should not implement their own precautionary policies, such as imposing a ban or moratorium on new telecommunications development or insisting on minimum distances between new telecommunications development and existing development. In addition, the Health and Safety Executive would be the enforcing authority for concerns about electromagnetic radiation in the telecommunications sector, and I'm aware that Public Health Wales has previously produced public health information on the subject. There is also UK guidance available. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Question 2, as I said, has been withdrawn. Question 3 from Mr. J. Brown to the Deputy Leader for Cabinet Member for Sustainable Places.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question. And this is about the mole regeneration plans. So the response is the Barry Making Waves Levelling Up project is intended to prove a catalyst to open up the waterfront to leisure uses and create a great environment for both locals and visitors to Barry. The nearly £20 million of funding supports a package of projects over £30 million, including a new water sports centre on the Mole, as well as the conversion of the historic dock offices into a space for business and employment. This will create the conditions for further growth and investment, opening the Mole up to the public and improving access to the water via a new marina. It will also see significant investment in the heritage and history of Barry through the refurbishment of the iconic dock offices for employment purposes. In terms of pleasure trips and other such activity, the marina will be a privately run venture, and as part of the regeneration project, the lock gates to the dock will be upgraded so that yachts and boats can exit and leave without draining the dock itself. This would allow any operators of boat-based services to use the marina once it's in operation, although that will clearly be a decision for those operators at the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 4, as I said, has been withdrawn. Moving on to agenda item 6. Motion submitted by Councillors M. Cowp and Councillor Dr. Ian Johnson. Removal of specialist health visiting support for breastfeeding or combination feeding. Who's presenting? Councillor Cowp.
On behalf of the Mayor, can we just bear with us a minute while we get the microphone working for Councillor Cowp? Thank you. For those who are remote users.
I think it's working now. So, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion which is in my name on the agenda tonight. That is, that the Vale of Glamorgan Council notes with concern the proposals by Cardiff and the Vale University Health Board to remove specialist health visiting support from the only drop-in service in the Vale of Glamorgan for parents who are breast or combination feeding, which is located in Dinas Powys, and that the Vale of Glamorgan Council resolves to write to Cardiff and the Vale University Health Board, asking them to reconsider this proposal and to maintain the current level of service. Let me say, first of all, that my many years of experience as a health visitor, a midwife and a public health nurse mean that this issue of specialist breastfeeding and combination feeding support for babies and parents is very close to my heart. I've seen over the years how difficult this can be for new parents. The World Health Organization recommends that babies are breastfed up until the age of 2 years. The long-term public health benefits of breastfeeding are well documented, and the consequences of failing at this endeavour for parents and children could have long-term health, emotional and psychological consequences for our citizens and a knock-on effect to our social care services. The benefits are not just for children, although they are considerable, for example, less risk of infection and allergies, etc., but also to the mothers who in later life will have less chance of breast and cervical cancer. However, breastfeeding rates are already very low compared with other parts in the UK, and the UK itself has one of the lowest breastfeeding rates in the Western world. Specialist support and education have been found to improve the duration of breastfeeding. Support needs for breastfeeding are dynamic, and it is unpredictable when challenges and needs arise. The only support group in our area staffed by a specialist breastfeeding health visitor is in Dinas Powys, and this group supports on average 17 parent-baby pairs weekly from across the whole of the Vale of Glamorgan area, Roos, St Athan, Cowbridge, Llantwit Major, as well as Dinas Powys, Penarth, Barry, Sully, Landock and Wembo, and also from Cardiff County. The proposal is to take away the specialist support and offer less trained staff who, if need be, will be able to refer on. So instead of this drop-in facility with specialist input from a health visitor and peer support offered by such groups, parents will need a referral from a health care professional to attend a clinic by appointment only in Llanderin on a Friday afternoon. The difficulties of getting to this location at the other side of Cardiff for our constituents makes it lengthy and inconvenient at best and impossible at worst. Alternatively, parents may be offered a home visit from other staff members who may not be specialists. For many, the specialist support provided by these groups in Cardiff Bay, which is now being closed completely, and in Dinas Powys, is a lifeline during the varied challenges of breastfeeding. And when your baby will not feed, it is rather more urgent than waiting for a referral to be generated. Constituents have raised concerns, and I know of 2 community councils who've also written to Cardiff and the Vale University Health Board, along with other councils considering doing the same. The issue was raised in a Senate debate on the 3rd of July 2024, with no satisfactory answers provided by the Health Minister. As a county council, I believe that we do have a duty to acknowledge, support and understand the public health needs of our constituents. Therefore, I would ask that we as a council send a message and write to Cardiff and Vale University Health Board requesting that the Health Board honour their policy of commitment to the health and well-being of parents and babies who are breastfeeding, and to reconsider their decision to withdraw the specialist support in Dinas Powys and to maintain their current level of service. I hope I've given you enough background outline, and I hope that I can count on your support. And if there was to be a vote, Mayor, please could I request a recorded vote? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cow. Do I have a seconder?
I'd like to second that, Mayor, but I will reserve my right to speak later on in the debate if required. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Leader.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cowp. Thank you for submitting this motion. I definitely share your view that there should be adequate support for breastfeeding. When you contacted me recently, I suggested how you could voice your concerns to Llais Cymru or alert other members. However, I'm not totally convinced that the motion to council is the most effective way forward, the most effective course of action. The motion doesn't provide any depth of background information, and there is contradictory information on the internet, and I think that important decisions such as this should be based on a depth of knowledge and informed discussion. We don't know the rationale behind the Health Board's decision, and we don't know how they intend to provide breastfeeding support going forward. Recently, there's also been some concerns about the reduction in Health Vista support for babies and small children per se, and that's also something that may be of concern to members. So I'd actually like to move an amendment to the motion this evening. And for me, that would be that the Council notes the importance of specialist support for breastfeeding and therefore resolves to ask the Healthy Living and Social Care Scrutiny Committee to invite representatives of the Health Board to explain their rationale for the decision and their future support for breastfeeding. Those members would then be able to make an informed decision on any specific recommendations to the Health Board, and I'd move.
And I'll second that recommendation.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Cow, would you like to?
If I may, thank you. I think we do know that there will be less support, and as regards research and contradictory information, there is contradictory information out there, but the research overwhelmingly supports the health benefits of breastfeeding. So we do know, and we've been told, and our citizens have been told, that that level of support will be removed. So there will be less support. That's all I would say. We know that already. And we've been told that the decisions are managerial and based on finances, and they're not based on public health needs. My request was that this council put a marker down that public health needs of our citizens are important to us, and this could have long-term consequences for some of our families.
Thank you, Councillor Cow. Councillor Johnson.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. I speak to the amendment. And I don't know why the screen refers to my ear. Could we change this? Oh, thank you. That's better.
The camera was showing my ear rather than my face. I'm not sure I've got a best side from there, but just
in response to the amendment, to me as somebody who has seconded the proposal, there's nothing stopping those committees reviewing the request, and as we can do on any occasion, but I'm sure that the Care Committee has invited people to come from the Health Board to speak to them on a number of occasions, and they haven't attended. So I'm going to agree with Councillor Cowp that we should write as a council, to maintain the current provision, and we can also refer the matter to the committee, and we can ask the Health Board to come to us to respond to the questions. They should do this anyway as a matter of course. And the problem is, we've seen on a number of occasions over the last couple of years that the Health Board doesn't respond and doesn't attend this council's committees, and I'm not sure whether Councillor Charles has a view as a chair of the committee. I'm sure that she's received this request similarly, but there's no reason for us not to do both. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Charles.
Yeah, I will agree with Councillor Johnson in as much as I have asked on very many occasions and tried for months and months and months to get a visitor to come to us and answer any queries or questions we've got. I managed to get them here once and I think they were scared off. They didn't want to come back again and it is impossible to get them here.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. From our point of view, the Conservative Group welcomes the motion proposed by Councillors Cowp and Johnson. The service in question is invaluable for many parents, and the proposals to remove or reduce it are a cause of considerable concern. I note Councillor Burnett's proposed amendment, but as Councillor Johnson has stated, there is no reason why we cannot, as an authority, make the request for representatives of the Health Board to attend the relevant scrutiny committee, in this case the Healthy Living and Social Care Scrutiny Committee, to answer questions, queries and concerns that members may have, and still, as an authority, express an opinion on this. It's quite clear that this is a matter of considerable public concern. It affects my own ward of Landock, and it affects many other communities within the Vale of Glamorgan as well. If the Health Board are of the view that there are medical reasons for making this change, reasons which have not been communicated effectively to the public, if they had been, this motion would not have been brought forward this evening, then they can answer those concerns and address that point within any response. But it's not reason in itself for the authority not to write to the Health Board to express this view, and so our group shall not be supporting the amendment on the basis that we would like to see the authority write to the Health Board to raise these concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Ernest.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I would like to support the motion that's been put forward by our colleagues from Dinas Powys and Barry, respectively. As a parent of 4 children and no less than 3 grandchildren, I think that it's extremely important that this sort of service, which tends to go under the radar and not be recognised by those who maybe have not had to use the service or indeed who want to use the service, I think it's very important that it stays within the Vale of Glamorgan. The move to Llanedden, which I visited quite recently, looking at the potential for a new health centre for Penarth to be modelled on Llanedden, is a long way off. It's a bad bus ride, not particularly easy to get to, and certainly for mothers from the western end of the Vale, I would suggest that it would take them a good hour to hour and a half to get there, an hour and a half to get back. So I will, purely on a personal basis, happy to support the members putting the motion forward this evening, and thank you, Mr Mayor, for time to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. Do we have any more councillors who want to have input into this discussion? As we have an amendment on the table, before we move to a vote, Leader, would you like to just, for clarification, repeat your amendment? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I also clarify that if the Vale of Glamorgan writes to the Health Board, who would that letter be from?
It would be, I suspect, from the chair of the relevant scrutiny committee.
No, if this came from, if this motion, if this motion,
the chief
original
executive,
motion,
chief executive, yeah.
Okay. The amendment is that the council notes the importance of specialist support for breastfeeding and therefore resolves to ask the Healthy Living and Social Care Scrutiny Committee to invite representatives of the Health Board to explain the rationale for the decision and their future support for breastfeeding. Those members would then be able to make an informed decision on any specific recommendations.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Marnie.
Am I allowed to speak on the amendment, or is it too late?
I'm afraid you should have come in before Councillor Burnett responded, so I've been advised it's too late. Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Right, we shall move to a vote on the amendment, please. Democratic, could you take us through the vote, please? Thank you.
Chair, can I just mention, Mr Mayor, that for those who are remote users, you will be receiving an invitation to vote, which will be for and against or an abstention. And for those in the chamber, it's plus for 4, -4 against, and 0 for abstention.
Sorry, Mayor, can I just confirm that we asked for a recorded vote on the motion? And can we have a recorded vote on the amendment as well, please?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Chair, just before we do the vote, can I just mention, because the vote might look odd if people didn't know, that Councillor Perry is also on the call. So if Councillor Perry could just join to let us know if he's got any declarations of interest, and if he hasn't, then everyone is aware that we've got another member who joined during the meeting. Councillor Perry?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm present and nothing to declare.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Councillor Ernest, you've still got your hand up. Is that historic hand, or have you... Well, point of order.
Apologies, historic, Mr Mayor.
No problem, thank you. We shall now go through a vote on the amendment. Councillor Buckley.
Oh, Councillor Buckley's not registering.
Were you in favour of the amendment? Okay.
Councillor Buckley, can I just check? I just heard, sorry, that the Mayor had asked you that you were in favour of the amendment. Thank you. Okay, Mr Mayor, that would mean that the motion is carried is 26 to 23. Some members may not have voted online, and we've also got a member who's not in the room. Yes, and recorded vote, please. Amy will put it up on screen.
Okay. Thank you, councillors. As the amendment was carried, the amendment now becomes a substantive motion. Yeah, we shall vote on the substantive motion, the amended substantive motion now, please. Thank you. Can we go through another vote, please? Thank you.
Yeah. This is a substantive motion now. It's the amendment that was put forward. Everyone has to vote again to confirm whether they're happy with that amendment or not. So again, the vote will be put up on screen now to vote for the amendment that the leader presented. Thank you. Councillor Buckley, is your machine now working now? Okay. I've made a note, Councillor Buckley, so that would mean that there are 35 votes for, Mr Mayor, and there are 3 against, but there are 14 abstentions. Sorry, 2 against, I couldn't see the screen, and 14 abstentions. So the substantive motion that the leader mentioned is now carried. And we'll now put the recorded votes up on the screen.
Thank you, councillors. That motion was carried, so that became the substantive motion. So moving on to...
Chair, would you mind if I can recall Councillor Selby, please?
Sorry, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
We shall wait till Councillor Susan Lloyd Selby returns. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to agenda item number 7, motion submitted by councillors Mark Hooper and councillor Dr. Ian Johnson. Consultation on the voting system used for principal council elections. Councillor Hooper, would you like to present your motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to move this motion this evening. Thanks in advance to Councillor Dr. Ian Johnson for seconding it. Simply and to the point, we are calling on the Vale Council to begin the process to make our local voting system fairer, to put the interests of the elector first and to make sure, as best we can, that every vote cast in a local election in the Vale of Glamorgan counts. Excuse me. Far too often, too many votes don't count. We all saw the general election result from the 4th of July, where too many votes didn't count and too few electors participated in the process. In one seat, South West Norfolk, the winning candidate was elected via first past the post with only 26% of the vote. First past the post is tired and outdated, and increasingly in a multi-party in a multi-party system. It worked earlier when I said it. It doesn't work. This motion is not being brought before council tonight for party political advantage, nor is it expected to benefit individual councillors. To the contrary, this, for many of us, could be characterised as turkeys voting for Christmas. We have long enjoyed multi-party politics in the Vale, but we too often rely on party strength in certain wards, making up for weaknesses elsewhere. This damages democracy, encourages pork barrelism, and worst of all, leaves electors in certain wards arguably disenfranchised. At a local level, too few vote in local authority or community council elections, and yet we know this place and the colleagues who work here are responsible for a huge amount of public service delivery. Indeed, the sort of services that impact people's lives every day. What happens here matters. We can and must do better. I want to thank the Plaid Group for supporting tonight's motion. I can be an idealist, but I'm not naive. This motion is no panacea that restores trust in our political processes. But it is a start, and I urge members to join together to make such a start this evening. The Senedd passed the Local Government and Election Wales Act in 2021 with the explicit aim to strengthen local government accountability, performance and transparency, and promote public participation in local democracy. The Welsh Government also anticipated this Act would encourage greater diversity in local government. These aims are to be applauded, but to make them realisable, we have a decision to make. The Act gives local authorities such as ours a choice between first past the post and single transferable vote, STV. One is a broken system that belongs in the history books. The other enlivens democracy. It is right that we, as a full council, consult on this matter, and I urge all fellow councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Johnson, will you second it?
To second that and reserve the right to speak later in the debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any speakers on the motion, please? Councillor Carroll.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, there are many issues which this authority should prioritise. It should prioritise managing its budgets more efficiently, so that residents don't have to face years of inflation-busting council tax rises. It should prioritise getting procurement right, so that it doesn't allow projects to introduce new IT systems to go 3 times over budget. It should prioritise making sure bins are collected on time, that our roads are resurfaced and that potholes are filled. And these are all issues on which, I'm sorry to say, this Labour Council's record is simply not good enough. And when it comes to setting priorities, Mr. Mayor, these must be the things that are at the top of the list. Changing the voting system for council elections is not, it is fair to say, at the top of that list. In fact, it hasn't been raised once with me by a constituent since I've been a member of this authority. The motion before us this evening is, I'm sorry to say, a distraction. It risks taking up this authority's time, moving resources away from those issues that matter to residents towards something that is simply not a priority. Now, we all know that the first-past-the-post electoral system can be brutal. It probably won't escape attention that my party has very recently experienced that brutality. In this month's general election, the Conservative Party may have come second in terms of votes in Wales, but ended up with 0 seats. Plaid Cymru, by contrast, came fourth, yet received 4 seats. But despite this, the inherent advantages of the first-past-the-post system should not be understated. It enables representatives to be directly accountable to their constituents, placing power in the hands of the public, not party officials. And it would be to the detriment of our communities were that to change. The system that we have in place ensures that we as councillors are accountable to our constituents, The Conservative Group cannot support this motion and we shall be voting against.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Morgan.
So, I just wonder whether we could really stay on what this motion is about. And it's not actually about changing the voting system now, because we can't do that without consultation. That's what the legislation says. And if we're going to adopt this by the next election, we have to give notice before the 15th of November. If we're going to have a proper consultation, we need, I would say, 12 weeks to do that, which means that we have to start the consultation immediately to allow our officers time to prepare the papers and to have it in time for a resolution sometime before the 15th of November. Now, I did a little reading up on this earlier today just to see how other local authorities have approached it. And certainly Powys and Gwynedd approached it in December of 2023. Neath and Port Talbot approached it in April of 2023. Cardiff approached it in July of 2022. And Bridgend approached it in February of 2024. Now, I'm not going to make any comment one way or another what I think about the change in the voting process, but the fact is we just don't have time to do this before the 15th of November. We don't have time to take on board a consultation. The issues of the voting system are complicated and need to be presented to the voting public so they understand it. And also, there is an enormous cost associated with the consultation because we have to approach all of the voters in the Vale of Glamorgan. Certainly, when they were talking about it in Cardiff, they were budgeting for something of £25,000 to £30,000 just to do the consultation. And I imagine it's something of a similar order here. So, yes, one day this might be appropriate, but I think we're just too late to take it on at this stage. And I think it's not fair on the officers to have to prepare a consultation now, and it's certainly not fair on the people who pay council tax to be burdened with this sudden and unbudgeted for expense. So what I would say is I'm not against the concept, but certainly I think it needs to be done in a timely manner, and I think we've missed the boat as far as November the 15th is concerned.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Brooks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I do believe with the system that's being proposed, I think there are advantages and there are disadvantages. But I think we've just been through a very large general election, and I really don't think there's the public appetite to go out to public consultation around this issue at this time. I think we do need to engage with our residents more. Fully agree and fully support that, and we should be. But I think for myself, I wouldn't say it's not saying never, and I do think there are those advantages and disadvantages. But I think at this time, and really echoing what Councillor Morgan has said around the time scale and that cost, when we're going to be facing, huge cuts to our budgets or potential huge cuts to our budget going forward, I think is not appropriate for this time. But what I would advocate is that we do need to actually go out into our communities and engage with our residents more and maybe have those conversations, because I do think a lot of people probably wouldn't understand the concept because it can be complicated. So I think to actually explain that as part of our conversations around sort of the first past the post, versus STV, I think is a worthwhile conversation, but not at this moment in time. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Johnson.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Of course, it won't be a surprise that I would like to support the motion and request for a change to the voting system and a consultation in Vale of Glamorgan. I enjoyed Councillor Carroll's contribution a couple of minutes ago, where he said there are better things for the council to be doing. Unfortunately, his group hasn't offered any motion or any question for the council this evening. So I'm not sure if I take his contribution seriously this evening. Some of you will be aware of the 2021 Elections Act, which enables local councils to adopt the STV voting system for 2027 elections onwards, subject to holding a consultation and agreeing on this before the 15th of November, in order for the Electoral Commission to implement the new ward boundaries. I've heard the contributions from Councillor Morgan and Brooks on these points. We have, as a council, of course, the means to consult with the public. We do this frequently. This happens frequently, and there's plenty of time for us to do this between the deadline on the 15th of November. And of course, the reason for that deadline is because of the need to develop the work from the Boundary Commission. We've got the right and we've got the time to do so. And if we can't consult on this, how do we expect to be able to consult on anything under the sun? And the reality is it would be patronising not to consult on this matter on the basis that people wouldn't be able to understand the voting system. This is something which has been used for a century in the Republic of Ireland. It's used in Assembly and local authorities in Northern Ireland, and it has also been adopted by the people of Scotland. I don't know whether people are too thick in Wales, as it was suggested. The winners of any more representative voting system are the electorate. They will have the power to select the most worthy candidate from the list. This will create change in the way we operate as our politicians, with a greater focus on the positive reasons as to why we should be elected to run the council, as opposed to negativity. What we often see about keeping another party out, or saying another party will not win here. No Lib Dem bar charts, please. Under an STV system, multi-member wards, perhaps that might be new in some areas in the Vale, like where Councillor Carroll representing Dundalk, but in other areas, Dinas Powys, Llantryd Major and Cadoxton, and the majority of wards in Barry and Penarth. This is not new. And as a member sharing a ward with another councillor, it's not all that bad, honestly. I can see Councillor Lord Selby smiling there. I don't know whether he agrees with me. We'll see. Voters are free to vote with their heart before them transferring that vote should their first choice not be successful, ensuring that a council ward is secured with a high number of votes. This will mean a high percentage of support for every single candidate returned to this council, and therefore the right for the people supporting that party, whether it be Labour in Cowbridge or elsewhere, another party. For me, this council chamber, and indeed any chamber, should broadly reflect the electorate. And then this will foster collaboration for the benefit of the people and the area. It is not democratic for one party to secure 84% of the seats in Wales with 37% of the votes, as Labour has done in the Westminster election. We're seeing a failure in the first past the post system. But even if you welcome this result today, as many of you will be in this room, it's also clear that this is not reflective of the people. And let us not forget that the outcome can easily go the other way. Specifically in the Vale of Glamorgan context, only twice in 7 elections since the new authority in 1995 has any party secured an outright majority. Labour in 1995 and Conservatives in 2008. So working in coalition is by no means new for this council. As I said, this is a system which has been used for a century in the Republic of Ireland without them feeling the need to revert to first past the post. So there's no reason for us not to consult. This is just a consultation, that's the purpose. So we should listen to the public views and consider adopting a system that will create change for the better. So I support the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I was just about to draw you to a close, but you were doing that yourself. Councillor Ian Perry. Oh, Councillor Burnett, sorry. Leader.
Thank you, Mayor. It was quite interesting to hear the Local Government Elections Wales Act 2021 mentioned, because actually going back, group leaders received an email laying out the process for establishing a consultation and moving towards STV on the 25th of November 2022. There was another email to group leaders which was also sent to all councillors on the 24th of October 2023. Both would have allowed plenty of time for the process to be achieved well before the deadline. Even if a request had been submitted in March 24, after the public question to full council provided a prompt, this could have been easily achieved. Residents need to fully understand what they are being consulted on and what the implications could be, not just the STV process, but the implications for ward boundaries. Councillor Johnson just mentioned Scotland. Well, I've actually got friends who are local councillors in Scotland, and if you look at the top of Scotland, there are 3 councillors elected on STV to cover where it takes well over 2 hours to drive from there to the top of Scotland and right across over to Wick. And if some of those are off work, as they have been, you've got one person that's covering a huge ward. Whether or not that's right, I don't know, but it's an implication. You also need to look at ward boundaries. A lot of our single ward members would then be covering huge wards, and you have to say in the implications, or maybe independent members who have been elected on single issues, whether or not they can maintain the same links in with their communities. I don't know. But then there's also the costs involved. There needs to be a detailed consultation report, an effective consultation so that all 105,903 local government electors in the Vale of Glamorgan and key stakeholders such as town and community councils are reached, not just those with a vested interest. This process, even if it was to each house, would be over 63,000 households, plus media campaign, social media campaign and other channels. I would suggest that the minimum for an effective consultation would be 6 weeks minimum. You can see that we're quickly running out of time. Then a report on the consultation and notice of a special council meeting where a 2/3 majority would be needed. But the special council needs 3 weeks notice as well. So yet again, time is running out. A meaningful consultation is unachievable within the current deadlines. And then there's the cost. Leaving out the additional cost of an election under STV, because if that was what was voted for, that is what we would do. And that would be detailed in any consultation. But this is about the here and now. We've just agreed a very difficult budget in which we've had to scale back or stop many services that our residents would likely have prioritised over this. We have not allocated budget for mailing over 105,000 people, for printing costs or for staff resources to deliver this process. It didn't have to be this way. It really did not have to be this way. If a request had been submitted following any of the 3 previous opportunities, there would have been time for an effective consultation. Leaving it till this point disenfranchises Vale residents and affects their opportunity to participate in a constructive dialogue. It also means we have to reprioritise budget. And my question would be, what are you going to cut in order to achieve this? I will be voting against this motion.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Ian Perry.
Hi, good evening. It looks like our Senate has come up with an idea that's not been properly thought through yet again in terms of the cost of the consultation that it requires. Yes, first past the post is outdated, particularly in terms of Westminster, and we should be looking at encouraging people to vote and participate and having a much fairer, better system for elections throughout our nation. So it's disappointing that it's not come forward before and that there's not been more consultation or leadership perhaps from the cabinet before, who probably have got better links than most of us with people in the Senate. So we should always be engaging. I think someone said we should go engage, but we should always be engaging. As an independent, you have to go and engage constantly because you can't rely on your own party. Hopefully my screen's all flashing. Hopefully it's just my end. So it's disappointing, and I think STV should have been consulted on before it went into the Senate legislation, perhaps. So I will sit back and think and ponder how I'll vote in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Marnie.
Thank you. I've just listened with some wry amusement to a representative of the Labour Party, given the high and mighty, we must inform people, we must consult people, we must do it properly. You've just had a consultation on transferring Cosmoston to Penarth Town Council where you didn't inform one resident. Not one resident. It didn't bother you then, so why would it bother you now when you're coming out with this sort of stuff? I had to inform the residents. It would have taken one member of staff 2 hours to deliver a letter to every single house. So I don't really appreciate the high and mighty. We have to explain everything to residents. We have to consult correctly. We'll do it all the time then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Wilkinson. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. I was going to say I wouldn't agree with Councillor Johnson on the IQ of the Welsh people. Thank you. Right, does anyone... Councillor Cow.
Sorry, Mayor. I think the suggestion, I don't know if this may be an issue with the interpreter, I apologise to the interpreter, but the suggestion that we somehow can't understand this was one that seemed to be meant by Councillor Brooks because it was a complicated system, and was saying, well, actually the Scottish can manage it, the Irish can manage it, you know, we're not that thick.
Again, I would agree with you, we're not that thick. I think maybe translation mired that slightly. Councillor Cowp.
Thank you. I'm surprised that constituents haven't raised this with anyone, because I think there have been a few emails going round which I thought had been copied to all councillors from people who were concerned about this. But there is 18 weeks between now and the 15th of November, which might be long enough to do a consultation. The thing is, encouraging people to vote is one of the most important things that we can do in a democracy. And without going into the pluses and minuses of each way of voting, for an individual to feel that their vote truly counts is very important. So something like the STV, probably we should have gone out to consultation about this, because we need to encourage our population to take part in politics, to vote and to be involved in what their councillors are doing for them.
Thank you, Councillor Cowp. Councillor Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support this motion. A quick look at the online feed of this meeting shows that 7 people are listening to our meeting from outside our own council. I think this shows that we are in danger of becoming largely either irrelevant or people really just don't care what we get up to until it really bites them in either their charges that they get from us or an unpopular decision that we make. I feel that if you need to increase democracy, you need to increase the opportunity for people to indulge in the democratic procedure. I don't know what people are frightened of. I'm happy to put myself forward under a system that's far more democratic, and I don't see why we should delay. There is time, it should be done. Okay, I hear that we should consult more as a council. Well, we don't, and this is why we get ourselves into hot water in many, many occasions. Don't be fooled. Many people find us irrelevant, and if we can do anything to actually stop being seen that way, we need to actually engage in a different way and a far more democratic way, and SDV is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodges. Councillor Franks.
Thank you. I hear the concerns of people, how difficult it is to consult, how expensive and awkward, and the pressure on the budget and everything like that. I would remind people on July the 4th, tens of thousands of people had been consulted and voted. Leaflets went to every part of the 2 constituencies across the Vale, and it was manageable, wasn't it? And I think most people, but not all, most people were quite happy with the result. But now, when we go and ask on a single issue, it's overwhelming. We can't possibly speak to people. They wouldn't understand it, would they? That's not my view, but that's the view I've heard expressed in this chamber. So I'd ask people to reflect on the ability of the community of the Vale Glamorgan to actually consult, and for members of the public to fully understand what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Do we have any more speakers? Councillor Williams.
I'm often being provoked. I'm not one to waste my time spending discussing something which I feel is being explained. We've justified we want a good consultation, and therefore we want to give it good time. Opportunity has been given to group leaders in the past to do that, and that hasn't happened. We recognise the costs. That's a valid reason for not pushing this forward. I would also remind members, once they are elected, it isn't just for their party members or residents, it's for the whole of residents. I certainly stand within the Atlanta ward, regardless of their colour, representing them. And I hope that all the members of this council do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Cowpe has just mentioned that there were some letters. Can I just clarify if any letters were sent? She seemed to think that they were sent to all councillors. And just on the point of this issue, I have swayed very much and had lots of discussions about this, particularly with young people, about different kinds of voting systems. And I do think currently that it is the wrong time, for one. We've just had an election. I think the costs are far too great, and I would be not happy with this motion currently as it stands. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Lloyd Selby.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I've listened to the debate with interest, and that the comment was made by a councillor that many people see this council as irrelevant. I don't agree. This council is delivering vital services to people across the Vale. Education, social services being among them. That's vital work. And certainly my conversations with residents are that those are the things they want us to be spending their money on. I'll be voting against this motion. I don't think there is enough time to consult adequately, but I think in the current situation that we're facing financially, it's entirely inappropriate to be spending money on reforming a voting system when residents will expect us to be spending money on things that matter to them.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd Selby. We shall extend this debate to 45 minutes, as soon as it's so in-depth and interesting. Does anyone want to come in before Councillor Hooper comes in to sum up? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for everyone contributing to tonight's debate. I think it has been worthwhile. I do remember, and Councillor Brooks and I were at one point the only people in the room looking at the spoiled ballot papers on election night. And it was surprising how many people said not good enough. Now, this isn't a reflection of the candidates who were standing, it's a reflection of people expressing their interest or disinterest in politics and the way the political system works. Mr. Hodges, Councillor Hodges' point about there being only 7 people who are listening in is a reflection, not of the service that have been delivered, but people's lack of engagement with the political process. And there will come a point where we will all reflect on that and realise that us not being prepared to engage properly will be to the detriment of this place. It'll be to the detriment of the Senedd and other places, because we will see darker forces that will be in here causing more trouble than we've had before. I think Dr. Johnson, although he came in the middle, he did summarise things quite well. And my concern that we have suggested that people can't understand this voting process is something that a consultation would actually resolve, because you'd be able to go out there and explain it. There is enough time. And I'm concerned about the faux outrage, which we hear often in this chamber, sadly, about this not being done early enough. If the Labour Party had cared about this, which they seem to all seen this as something that'd be interesting, the Cabinet could have suggested this themselves. This could have been budgeted for and should have been budgeted for. Democracy costs, but it's worth it. We need to get people to engage more. I'd like to move the motion and call for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. I will now ask Democratic Services officers to prepare the electronic vote. This will be displayed on the screen for those members attending remotely. To vote, members in the chamber, please press the appropriate button on your microphone display screen. If any member online has any difficulties or in the chamber, please raise your hand. Thank you. This is just straight for or against the motion. Thank you.
Chair, we just sorting some microphones out to make sure that everybody in the chamber has the ability to vote, and the same, just to let everybody online know that we'll be coming shortly with the vote. But if you could bear with us, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, members. Can members vote for or against the motion submitted by Councillor Mark Hooper and Dr. Ian Johnson on STV? Thank you.
Councillor Johnson, I can't see us for that.
Thank you, members. We have 10 votes in favour of Councillor Hooper's motion and 40 votes against, so the motion is not carried. Recorded votes on the screen.
Mayor, we are aware that one of the members has not been online for some time, so the votes are slightly different, but we know who's not there. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Excellent debate. Moving on to agenda item 8, Standards Committee Annual Report. Can I ask the leader to present this report, please?
Super. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is the Draft Standards Committee Annual Report. It's produced, as it says, every year as a requirement under the Local Government Elections Wales Act. This was taken to Standards Committee on the 10th of June, and from there it comes to us to be received and noted. They recommended that said that the report be approved and forwarded to full council, that the monitoring officer could add in any necessary additional comments, and that a copy of the finalised report following presentation here this evening be forwarded to each Vale Morgan Town and Community Council clerk and the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales. So it leaves little extra for me to do than to move that we receive the report and note it.
And I'll second that recommendation.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I see there's no dissent, no hands raised. The report is accepted. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to agenda item 9, Cardiff Capital Region City Deal, Joint Scrutiny Committee, nominated deputy reference from Scrutiny Committee, Environment and Regeneration. Can I ask the leader to present, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a reference from the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee. As members would be aware, we have a nomination to the Joint Scrutiny Committee of the Capital Region City Deal. But in case of their unavailability, we also have a named deputy representative. Because of the changes in scrutiny, it was necessary to appoint a new deputy. The recommendations that came from scrutiny to us are that Councillor Yanucci Williams be recommended to Council as the nominated deputy to represent the Council at meetings of the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and secondly that Councillor Yanucci Williams, the named deputy, be entitled to vote at meetings of the Joint Scrutiny Committee in the absence of the chair of the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee, who is the normal representative, and I would move that we agree that.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I see there are no hands, no dissent. The recommendation is therefore approved. Thank you. Moving to agenda item 10, the use of a Chief Executive's emergency powers. Can I ask the leader to present this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is our standard housekeeping report on use of Chief Executive's emergency powers since the last report on the 29th of April 2024. There are actually only two in this report, and one was a change of membership on Senior Management Appointment Committee, and also the appointment of an interim head of Democratic Services. I would move we note.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I see there are no hands and no dissent. The report is therefore noted by Council. Moving on to agenda item 11, amendments to the Council's constitution. Leader, can I ask you to present the report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a standard housekeeping report that we have in relation to the Council's constitution. If you have a look at paragraph 2, it outlines that there are just 3 minor changes, all related to officer delegations. The first one is in relation to us entering contracts for the sale of goods and materials rather than the purchase of them. Under 2.3, there is the a delegation for the head of democratic services. Most people will be aware that if we want to change membership of committees, it has historically gone through the chief executive, which seems a bit onerous. So now it will go through the head of democratic services following receipt of a request in writing by a group leader of the respective political party. And the final one is officer delegations allowing SRS to adopt the fees, the All Wales fees, for the forthcoming new mandatory licensing regime for special procedures as outlined. I would move we approve.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I see there are no hands and no dissent. The relevant delegations as contained within the report are therefore approved. Moving along to agenda item 12. Item A, reference from Cabinet of the 11th of July, renewal of public space protection orders for the prevention of alcohol-related antisocial behaviour. Leader, can you present the reference, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I mean, these are long-standing arrangements that we have. I think it's worth mentioning that these are not alcohol bans. These are measures to tackle alcohol-related antisocial behaviour, to give us the necessary means to either prohibit or remove alcohol should it be necessary to prevent antisocial behaviour. So there was a consultation on this, and during the consultation where the existing arrangements were agreed, there were also 12 new sites recommended for orders as a result of antisocial behaviour related concerns, and they're outlined at paragraph 2.11. If you look at 2.12, there was a request for an amendment because the tennis courts at Alexandra Park, Penarth were included, but they actually are privately run, so we will remove those from there. But overall, an overwhelming majority of 84% of responders strongly agree or agree. And I think it's worth saying that over the period of the last orders, there were only 4 fixed penalty notices issued, because we actually much prefer to be working with public consent and use these as a way of encouraging good behaviour. So I thought you were having problems.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Could you please not speak over people when they're speaking? Thank you.
So carrying on, this was agreed at Cabinet, and that has been brought to us for agreement. So Cabinet resolved that for the proposal of renewing the existing public space protection orders for controlled alcohol zones be agreed and referred here, that that Cabinet noted the contents of the public consultation results and the inclusion of new restricted areas. Cabinet agreed to include the proposed additional areas as part of the renewal process, and to incorporate these into the orders for consideration by full council. And that the resolutions of Cabinet as regards this report are referred to full council for consideration. It's therefore come to us today to approve, and I would therefore move.
And I'll second those recommendations.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Ernest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If members refer to page 4, paragraph 2.11, the first item on there is Penarth Athletic Ground in Penarth. My understanding is from correspondence that Penarth Athletic Ground is now going to be leased to the Penarth Athletic Club, and therefore they will have control of the ground as distinct from the council. And I'm wondering what the legal position is in respect of that, because it will not be a place after that which the council will maintain in the normal course of events, but the athletic club would have responsibility. So maybe I'd have response from the legal officer, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Ernest. And I can confirm that that recommendation will be implemented subject to the agreement of the Penarth Athletic Association.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much, everybody. The pause provides everyone with a moment to be able to put their headphones on before I begin speaking, so thank you. Just a few comments. Obviously, support for the principle, the things that the PSPOs, we know that that order has been through council a few times, providing the police with the right, of course, to stop people drinking, where antisocial behaviour is seen. I welcome a number of new areas which have been added this time. One point I would like to make, and I made this point about the waterfront in Barry last time we spoke about this. We were speaking about the whole area, and this was also the suggestion from Barry Town Council, because there are a number of areas which have been added around the avenue, the railway lane playgrounds, car park areas, the Port Road, but it doesn't include the lane at the back of the estate next to the railway, which causes issues in my ward. So all of the water front, in my view, should be included in this. I also see that there was a suggestion from people about a central park in King Square, but it doesn't include Holton Road. So this is something to consider, if not now, certainly in future. Just a final point. I'm interested in, there's a number of areas in my ward which have been added around Sunset Road, Alexander Gardens, and a couple that I've already named, and I'm sure that this is a response to people and their behaviour and antisocial behaviour in some areas, but just to understand better, there are more areas, public open spaces and in relation to dogs in the following one. So it's not entirely clear what the difference is between us using a PSPO in an area to prevent people from drinking alcohol and antisocial behaviour in comparison to people out with their dogs. So just for future, perhaps not for tonight, but perhaps something for officers to take into consideration is whether we should standardise between the two, because if people do turn up with dogs and so forth, or if they turn up with alcohol and so forth, perhaps we should consider the two different types of anti-social behaviour under the same thing rather than being different. There are a number of areas which are not part of the alcohol PSPO, but are part of the dog-related PSPO. So I'm just raising this, as this is the appropriate area, as only after consultation this went to Cabinet and it hasn't gone to other scrutiny. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Ernest, is that a historical hand?
No, Mr. Mayor, if you'll forgive me, I notice in the schedule that the Kimin is mentioned twice in Penarth, the Kimin including all grounds in the pavilion, and further down the listing, the Kimin Penarth. That's duplicated. But I would also point out one, and with respect to you, Mr. Mayor, Penarth Head Park is not shown in there, and this is an area where there has from time to time been trouble, and as most of our major parks appear to be in there, I'm wondering why Penarth Head Park is not in there. It does attract groups of people on occasions who are up to no good. I wouldn't expect you to answer that, Mr. Mayor, but as it's in your ward, you may have some sympathy with my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. I haven't had any reports of any incidents personally, but thank you. Anyone else?
I think the point, Mr. Mayor, with respect, was that could it be included? If it's included, then it avoids any difficulties as the other parks are in there. It wasn't really for noting, it was for action. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. Leader, would you like to respond, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think what I would say is if you look at paragraph 211, those are the new areas that have been included. The existing areas that we had the discussions on were actually in the consultation, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are ones on there which I'd have to go through. The director would be able to clarify exactly which ones were existing ones which were renewed, which people agreed to. I would suggest that that is a separate conversation with the director, because there was a consultation on the existing ones which people agreed to, and in amongst that consultation the new ones also came up, which is what's gone through Cabinet and now come to us today, to have a knee-jerk reaction and suddenly start adding in extra areas. First of all, we'd have to check whether or not they were in the ones that were consulted on. Is probably best to take offline and see what's possible. I think similarly, it might be an idea to have a separate conversation about the waterfront to see whether or not there needs to be more discussion over a comprehensive view on that as well, if Councillor Johnson is interested. But I think at the moment, this is what we have from the consultation. It's what's gone through Cabinet, and that's what, as I said, has been moved for agreement and approval this evening.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Johnson.
Yes, so I just may respond very quickly. Yes, I'm happy to have further conversations. I don't know quite what that looks like in practice. But hopefully, Councillor Selby, myself, and officers can have a quick chat about that, and other members of the waterfront if relevant. Just as purely as a technical matter, I think within our order we have a bit of a spelling mistake regarding what should be Clos Llawhaden, and I think it's regularly in here as CBS, which looks like somebody's mistranscribed it. But if we could just confirm, that it's correctly spelt in the final version, that would be fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Your comments on the misspelling are noted, and that will be amended. Councillor Ernest, is that a historical hand?
Can I just respond to the leader? I take on board what she says this evening. The only thing is, if this order goes through now, the possibility of adding additional places is going to take, years, let alone months. And it was ready to ensure that, all possible areas are covered. I can't speak for other members' areas in the normal way, but I do speak this evening as a Penarth councillor. So where do we stand on this? If following discussions with the director, can they then be added? I think not, because we're taking a vote on it this evening.
Councillor Ernest, I think it's a discussion to take up with officers after this meeting, and they will respond. If there is no dissent to the recommendations from Cabinet, then they are approved. Thank you, councillors. Moving along, agenda item 12, item B, reference from Cabinet of the 11th of July, renewal of public space protection orders, dogs control. Leader, can you please present the reference? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I take the comment about why didn't we put both together, but actually there are some very specific issues in terms of dog control and the antisocial behaviour of their owners. The one thing has actually been put into this report is the addition of a new order covering all adopted highways and footways, with the requirement for all dog owners to pick up all instances of dog fouling in line with legislation. So if you specify certain individual areas, there's always going to be one that's missed out. So there is a situation now where all highways and footways are covered in this order. Similarly, as I said, if there was as you might imagine, there was a lot of feedback on this. Overwhelming majority of respondents agreed with the inclusion of all adopted roads and footpaths. There were discussions around dogs on lead control due to a concern about dogs having adequate space to exercise off lead. But at the same time, there are discussions about an increase in uncontrolled dogs in sort of country parks, etc. So there are situations there that we also have to have a look at. From the overall formal consultation, 85.3% of respondents strongly agree that all the existing orders should be retained. Additionally, there were new areas proposed as part of the consultation, as there were with the other one, and that's a seasonal ban at Ogmore by Sea from the 1st of May to 30th of September, common land Ogmore to Southern Down, dogs on lead order in the presence of agricultural animals, and I think that's very sensible. And Barry Waterfront, new play areas and open spaces, dog ban within children's play areas or dogs on leads where they're not gated, new open spaces, there'll be a removed dog fouling order. Somerset Road West Barry open space, that's removed dog fouling order, and Green Meadow Way Roos play area is a dog ban. The new order is attached to Appendix B. Maps of the new areas are at Appendix C, and the consultation report is at Appendix A. As I said, it was overwhelmingly supported in the consultation. So the recommendations that went to Cabinet and have come on to us this evening are that the proposal of renewing the existing public space protection orders for dog controls be endorsed. Secondly, that the contents of the public consultation results be noted. Thirdly, that the proposed new additional areas as part of the renewal process be agreed and incorporated into the orders for full council consideration, which is why it's here tonight. That the resolutions of Cabinet in respect to the report are referred to full council for consideration. That's here. That the use of the urgency procedure, that was just to get it here, so that's from the Cabinet. And then there was an extra one that was added, and that was that subject to formal agreement with Llantwit Major Town Council, Llantwit Major Recreation Ground be added to the proposals for consideration at full council, with enforcement subject to the agreement of Llantwit Major Town Council, who own the land. So that we are getting that ready so that once this goes through, we can have more in-depth discussions to formalise that. So I move that we approve the renewal of public space protection orders, dog controls.
And I'll second those, Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Franks.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that explanation. I wonder if the Cabinet member could explain how these rules are likely to be enforced with the budgetary pressures that we are facing. What resources will be available to enforce the relevant rules? Further, will you clearly indicate the boundary of the Merch playing field and also the boundary of the Nightingale Place play area?
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Leader, did you want to respond?
I'm not aware of the boundaries being in here, so we can get you a copy of the boundaries as needed. The enforcement would be down to our enforcement team, who actually currently find it very frustrating that they are restricted by some of the existing orders, and this should make it a lot easier for them to enforce the PSPOs.
Thank you, Leader. It's page 8, if that helps you, though it might be one of the appendices. The reason why I'm particularly interested in those two areas, because the Merch playing field, it details games area, play area, and bowling green. However, there are other areas within that patch of land, notably cycleway, grass verge, and a largish car park. And it seems to me that the playing field should be treated as one unit rather than sections. There's scope for enormous confusion. And as you say, our officers have had difficulty in the past, and I think the definition could be tightened up a bit. And I don't want to embarrass anyone, but when it comes to Nightingale Place play area, that hasn't existed for 10 years as far as I'm concerned. So I think that needs to be looked at again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franks, and thank you for not embarrassing anyone. Leader, would you like to respond?
I was just going to say that actually this is very useful information. It would have been even more useful in the consultation, because then we could have got it all added into the report. But I'm sure that the officers would be very pleased to hear the details that you've got, and we'll be able to provide the actual outlines of the areas of enforcement.
Thank you,
I'm always pleased to assist if I can, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Always helpful. Councillor Marnie.
Thank you very much. This is a subject that I've brought up time and time again over the years, and the pitiful amount of prosecutions made by the Vale of Glamorgan over dog fouling. I have a dog myself, and I witness on a daily basis now, unfortunately, the incredible rise and increase in dog fouling, where we're heading well towards the period before dog bags were introduced, as you'll all recall, some years ago, which thankfully reduced the problem somewhat, but we're heading right back up there. So that would suggest whatever measures the Vale employing are failing badly, really badly. My one question is, I did speak out some years ago at the ludicrous, appalling and disgusting decision by the Vale of Glamorgan to allow the exercising of dogs on our sports field to the detriment of the health of our sports people, young and old. Can I ask if this has been rescinded now, or are the public still allowed to exercise their dogs on our football, rugby, hockey and whatever other sports fields? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Leader, would you like to respond, please?
The rules pertaining to any sports field are actually relevant, specific to that area. Also depends on whether they're gated or not. I think I would say I agree with you over the level of dog fouling that is experienced. I'm not being facetious when I say it is not council officers that go around depositing dog mess on our streets. It is actually dog owners not controlling their dogs. It gets worse when the nights start to close in, because people don't tend to be as visible. I hope that our enforcement team can manage it as well as they can. But when you have people who think that there's no problem with the creation of poo trees in our country parks, we've still got a long way to go. And I think that we've got a lot of conversations to have with residents to see whether or not they can help us to tackle this problem. But it is very disappointing.
Councillor Marnie, I'll allow you to come back.
Well, that hasn't really answered my question. You've mentioned it depends whether something's fenced off or not. My question was, are people allowed to exercise their dogs on our sports fields? It's quite a simple question, actually, I'd have thought.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Leader, did you want to respond?
No, I said that there were a variety of arrangements, and I'm sure that the department will be able to provide you with specific information as per anyone, which is what I said to start off with. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I very much welcome this report. Dog fouling is a blight on our communities, and it's long been a serious problem in my ward of Landock. I've long called for a Vale-wide public spaces protection order to ensure that dog owners are required to pick up dog faeces that their dogs may have left on our pavements. It was a strange quirk of the system, actually, when I discovered that without a PSPO in place, enforcement officers were actually powerless to take enforcement action against people found to have acted in such a way. So this is very welcome indeed. It's something that people within my own ward, members of the community, have been pushing for some time. So I'm pleased that that pressure that communities across the Vale have placed has resulted in this being brought forward. I would, though, echo the comments raised by Councillor Franks and others. Now that this is in place, which is a welcome step, and I thank the authority for bringing it forward, it's vital that we see enforcement. I get that it's not easy. If people see enforcement officers, particularly if they're visible, they are less likely to act in a way that they would if they thought that that would go without being caught. So I would urge that plainclothed enforcement officers are deployed across areas where there are hotspots, and crucially that when people are caught, this is publicised and publicised widely so that a deterrent is in place. People know that they will be caught if they engage in such behaviour, and that they will face the consequences of their actions. Doing so would take a big step towards eliminating this problem in our communities, and that's something that would be very welcome indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Prothero.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to really register my thanks for the inclusion of dogs on lead on the common in Ogmore by Sea and Southern Down. And the reason why I wanted to emphasise how important this is for us is the number of dog attacks that we see on a regular basis with our sheep that graze on the common. It's become such an issue that one of our tenant farmers who is leaving will probably not be replaced. Now, the sheep in Ogmore have been there for longer than the people have. They're part of our heritage. Without them, I can't imagine what Ogmore would be like. So this order is terribly important and timely. And my further request will be how we can make sure that we educate people with some forms of signs. And I know there's not that much money to spend on these signs, but it is essential. I think there is a lack of understanding that the common it's farmers' fields without fences. It's not a country park. People come down with their dogs. Every day there are dogs chasing sheep. There are dogs attacking sheep. There is such a strong prey instinct in your pet dog. You wouldn't believe how it will change with sheep in front of it. So thanks ever so much for doing this. And please can we have some signs? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Prothero. Councillor Ernest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I refer members to page 7 of the schedule towards the back of the bundle? The Kirtville Recreation Ground in Penarth is shown as a play area and a games area. In actual fact, there are rugby pitches there, and the Old Penarthians RFC are based there. And I've had complaints, and I know my ward colleague, Councillor Thomas, has as well, let alone what has been mentioned in the press and in social media over a period of time of people excising their dogs on the pitches there when players have to play contact games as well. And I'm very disappointed to see that it's not included in the schedule that dogs should be on leads, because I think that is one of the issues, as well as removing dog feces. Could I ask, Mr. Mayor, that the Kirtville playing ground or recreation grounds is known, that it be included with the letter X in the middle column, as shown on page 7 of the schedule. I'm sure that would be to the meet with the approval not only of surrounding residents, but also the players of games and members of the rugby club there. Thank you, Master.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. Leader, did you want to respond to Councillor Ernest's comments?
Yes, in terms of Courteville, the play area and games area, we're looking at the mugger and the play area, and dogs would be prohibited from those in any case. If Councillor Ernest has any additional specific issues, then please get in touch. But I actually think that they're already covered.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Leader.
Councillor Ernest. I'll allow you to come back once, please. Thank you.
Sorry, I did have my hand up.
Yes, but you were responding to Leader's comments on your comments, so I'll allow you to come back.
Thank you very much. Yes. Again, like everything else, these orders go through every sort of 3 or 4 years. And if the work is not done following before tonight's vote, then it doesn't get done. It's as simple as that. It's not a question of having a word with the officer and it being sorted out. The issue is there, it remains, and I know that the local people and the players would be grateful it were added. Could we give discretion if the cabinet member involved in discussion with myself and the officer were to add it subsequent to tonight, possibly, Mr. Mayor? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ernest. Leader, did you want to respond to that?
Well, at the moment, I'm taking this report for Councillor Wilson, whose connection has dropped out. So, no, I, to be honest, this has come to us today. It's already been subject to quite a long consultation. I can understand members of the public not understanding consultations. You know, it doesn't, but I would have expected us to. And this is a legal process. It's gone through Cabinet. It's coming here today to approve. We've already seen that some of the things raised are already in there. So please contact the director if you have any specific issues, and we can look at a process then. But actually, we've covered the existing ones. We've added on the extras that came out in the consultation. And so I think we are where we are now.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Johnson.
Sorry, Mayor. I was just really going to make a fairly similar point to the Leader, which is that we've had a long consultation on this matter. Consultations are very difficult and very expensive, and sometimes even committed councillors have not bothered to respond or to note these matters in the consultation. So I understand it'll be difficult for other people.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Morgan.
Roger, 1 second. Just if it, bear with me. Just a very quick observation. We've had a lot of discussion about antisocial behaviour and irresponsible dog owners, but can we please observe that there are a lot of responsible dog owners and very good dogs out there who behave properly in any event? Thank you.
And donkeys.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I would have to agree with you on that. If there are no more members who'd like to speak on this, I see no dissent, then the recommendations put forward by Cabinet are approved. Thank you. Moving swiftly along to agenda item 13. Urgent decision procedures A to D. Leader, can you present this, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. These are, again, fairly much housekeeping that comes to us. These are the occasions when the urgent decision procedure has been used. And so they're outlined at A to E on here. And I would move that we note them.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I see there is no dissent. The urgent decision procedures are noted. Moving along, agenda item 14. We have members' questions. Question 1 from Councillor Mark Hooper to the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services. I'm aware his internet has dropped out. Question: investigations of commercial disposal of waste.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as you suggested, in fact, we have a double dropout in terms of Councillor Birch and Councillor Wilson have lost their connection. So I will take all 4 questions, as is my joy this evening. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hooper. There have been no investigations recorded in the last 5 years, but the service area has processes in place to minimise potential abuse, and it will investigate individual circumstances should evidence be presented or suspicious activity reported. This can be challenging as you cannot stop or identify commercial waste disposal in small cars, especially if the waste is similar to domestic or DIY waste. Therefore, restrictions focus on commercial vehicles, patterns of use, and advice is provided through the Council's website and site signage. For background purposes, the Council's sites are managed by an FCC environment, and the environmental permit regulating the site conditions of use is in their name, and they ultimately have legal responsibility. However, there is a partnership approach to prevent commercial waste being disposed of at both sites, and that's Barry and Llandau. A notice is displayed on the Council's website when navigating the page to make a booking, advising that the sites are for domestic use only, and there is signage on site advising the same. The greatest risk is from the use of commercial vehicles that have capacity to carry large quantities of waste, and the service area has a permit system in place that manages and regulates use. It also records the frequency of use and the address of the carrier and the type of vehicle used. Whilst requesting a permit, a user would be asked if the waste is commercial. If yes, they would not be able to proceed. Additionally, permits are restricted to 1 per month to minimise potential abuse. There are also staff processes in place, such as meet and greet and staff monitoring, as well as CCTV. Staff are vigilant, and if they notice the same vehicle or person coming to site on a regular basis, then this information would be passed on to the serviced area for investigation. Initially, the booking system is interrogated, and if there are suspicious circumstances, a home visit would be scheduled to assess where the waste originated from and to discuss the volume or types of waste being brought to the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Hooper? Moving on, question number 2 from Councillor Franks to the Cabinet Member for Education, the Arts and Welsh Language, Vale of Glamorgan schools with deficit budget.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Franks. 22 schools in the Vale of Glamorgan outturned in a deficit for the 23-24 financial year, and all schools in deficit are required to submit a recovery plan or business case on how these will be addressed. The aggregate total deficits in these schools was 3.2 million. The total balance for the remaining 31 schools was a surplus of 5.5 million, meaning schools collectively ended the financial year with a surplus of 2.3 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Franks, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please. But before I ask it, can I register my deep disappointment that the Cabinet Member isn't available to speak? I think it's wholly inappropriate that the burden is put on the Leader. The Cabinet Member, if there's the slightest problem, should be in the room.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you. I'm very worried about the delivery of the curriculum. What will be the impact of the failure of the Vale Council to fully fund the staff salary settlement for the forthcoming year?
I must be honest, Councillor Franks, I'm not sure that that actually relates specifically to the question. I can look into it and I can get you a response on that as we're working through figures, and we start, in fact, the budget process on Thursday, where we start to do end of year outturn. But I will take a note of your comment. I will also say that we are currently working on hybrid meetings, and members of the council are allowed to join the meeting from wherever. If there happens to be a connection issue, so be it. It is unworthy of you to make such a comment. Thank you.
Councillor Franks, you don't have a right to. Councillor Franks, you don't have a right of reply.
It's not a reply.
Councillor Franks, you don't have a right.
I would ask the monitoring officer to give some guidance on this.
Councillor Franks, you don't have a right of reply after your supplementary question, which should be related to your question or the response. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Franks.
Point of order.
Carry on.
I'd like the monitoring officer to comment on a personal remark against me, and I would like the ability to respond to that personal remark.
Thank you.
I shall take advice.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. As the Constitution sets out at 4.22.12, a point of order, which the Chair can hear immediately, must relate to an alleged breach of the Council rules of procedure or the law. The member must indicate the rule or law and the way in which he or she considered it has been broken. The ruling of the Chair on the matter will be final. 4.2213, personal explanation. A member may make a personal explanation at any time. A personal explanation may only relate to some material part of an earlier speech by the member, which may appear to have been misunderstood in the present debate. The ruling of the Chair on the admissibility of a personal explanation will be final. And lastly, in relation to the supplementary question that has been responded to, of course, and if the information is not able to be provided here tonight, the leader has indicated that that information will be requested and can be provided to you following the meeting.
Thank you. I'd like to take...
Monitor Officer. Councillor Franks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take advantage of the personal explanation provision that the monitoring officer has just read out. I'd like to deeply regret the comment of the leader. Quite simply, the system has to be good enough to work, and if it's not working properly, the cabinet members should be in council to face scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franks. Yeah. I would just say that the member not being available to answer the question was because internet has dropped out, and they were kind enough to attend the meeting whilst they were on holiday. So I think that it's fair that the leader pick up the. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Everyone's entitled to a holiday.
We're hearing the truth now.
Councillor Franks.
Came back for this.
We shall move on. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, members. Next question's from Councillor Collins on garden waste collections. And the question is to the Neighbourhood and Building Services Cabinet Member.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Collins. The specific information is not recorded. However, there is an acceptance that the service area occasionally runs late, and there are influences that affect the service, such as the weather, bank holidays, and other serious seasonal variations that vary capacity levels. The recycling team provides an average-based resource for this service, and when experiencing capacity issues, it usually catches up within 24 to 48 hours. It's not written within the existing terms and conditions, but the standard for this service is to reach every subscriber on their scheduled day wherever possible, or within 72 hours if there are circumstances affecting our ability to collect on the scheduled collection day. Thank you.
Councillor Collins, do you have a supplementary question?
I do. Thank you. You've stated that the standard for the service is to have the collections for subscribers collected on their day on their supposed day. Could you please then tell me why I have had reports of people waiting 2 weeks for their green waste bag collections?
To want to work. Oh, there we are. Great. I think that normally if I had reports within 72 hours, I'd already be on the phone. Normally, I've never known people not to have a special collection. There's normally some other glitch. I think that what we know, particularly with the green waste recycling, is that if there are periods of warm weather followed by wet weather or vice versa, things tend to grow very fast and there tends to be surges within demand. That's where you would normally get somewhere between, 24, 48 hours delay. I would be concerned if there were delays lasting to weeks, and if you could provide that specific information to the director, then we can make sure that's sorted.
Thank you, Leader. Moving along to question number 4 from Dr. Ian Johnson to the Cabinet Member for Education, Arts and Welsh Language. Location for a second Welsh medium comprehensive school in the Vale of Glamorgan.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Johnson. From September 2027, the projected intake into Year 7 at Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Morgannwg will start to exceed the school's admission number, although the school will still be under capacity overall due to smaller cohorts in older year groups. The Council's Learning and Skills team are currently working with planning colleagues as part of the replacement local development plan process to consider whether any of the candidate sites being promoted would be suitable to meet this need. In addition, a number of other planning activities have been undertaken relating to location, financial and pupil place planning and projections, as well as other relevant feasibility studies. A number of pre-consultation planning meetings have also taken place with a view to formulating a clear proposal for consultation during the academic year 2024 to 25.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Johnson, do you have a supplementary question?
And gyflym iawn.
Very quickly. Very quickly, thank you very much for the response on the timescale and the expectation for consultation next year. Is there a decision or is there a tendency towards any location for a second school in the Vale? Comprehensive, that is. And can I also just note the success of Ysgol Gyfun Bro Morgannwg, as the leader has said, which will be full in terms of capacity in a couple of years' time.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I think it's a bit of a moving feast at the moment. We don't necessarily have land. There are different big pieces of land, as you said, in terms of allocations, which ones will fit where, what are the permutations in terms of schools, how is it going to fit, what will the catchment areas be, that sort of thing. And these are the discussions that are currently ongoing to ensure that we not only have capacity for the current numbers, but actually for our future numbers as we seek to meet our proposals to grow education in Welsh language.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That is all the members' questions. Agenda item 15. I have no urgent items under part 1 and no urgent items under part 2. I therefore declare this excellent meeting of the Vale of Glamorgan Council finished. Thank you.